You know that feeling when your previously reluctant reader suddenly picks up a book on their own? Well, it happened with my son one day, and it was truly magical. Hey there, BookSchoolers. Today we're talking about the world of independent reading in homeschool, how to nurture it, when to start, and why it is so important for our homeschool children. Independent reading is a crucial skill that opens up a world of knowledge and imagination for our kids. But sometimes transitioning from read alouds to solo reading can be really tricky. Don't worry though. I've been through this journey several times with my four children, all the way from elementary to high school. And I'm here to share some tips with you and some tricks that have worked wonders for me and my children. Let's start at the beginning. Around age 6, while your children are learning to read, it's time to introduce them to some independent reading. Now, don't panic. We're not jumping into chapter books just yet. Well, in our homeschool, we started with Bob books, these little books here. And these books correlate perfectly with phonics sounds that your children are learning. It gives them confidence when they're able to read these short storybooks. And they're able to connect with the short and long sounds that they're learning in phonics. As their skills develop, you can strategically introduce these phonics readers and the Dolch Sight Words series books. We have a lot of these in our homeschool here. There are, I think, 3 levels. These are just 2 of the books for the very first series. These are really short books, as you can see. They're not very long, and there are many stories inside them. And what's nice about these is the first readers here, they have a lot of the same sight words that just show up, and it's very repetitive. Your child might have a problem maybe with the first book, and you can do some read aloud with them. But as they getting through the series, they'll see a lot of repetition in the words that show up. And then I'm not sure, but this is either from the second or the third series, the Why stories. Oh, I hope that you can see that. Yeah, so I have a lot of these. All of my children read them and enjoyed them. Also, you can strategically introduce the Dr. Seuss books. My kids really love those too. Books like these made independent reading feel less of a chore and a task to do at school and more like an exciting exploration. Speaking of book choices, don't forget to grab my free Diverse Books for Your Family book list. The link is in the description below. It's packed with great options for readers at all levels. Once your child hits 6 or older, it's time to start thinking about narration. But remember, independent reading really isn't the time for reading instruction or comprehension checks. That's for school time. If you're interested in learning more about narration and how to incorporate it into your homeschool, check out my Thoughtful Oral Narrations course. The link is in the description. In our homeschool, we set aside a certain time every day to read books, about a half an hour or an hour every day. And typically it was after our homeschool hours. And this routine worked well for us for many years. It created a clear separation between school reading and pleasure reading. And it also gave the kids something to look forward to at the end of their school day. Well, as your children get older, especially the high school years, maintaining this routine can be somewhat challenging. High schoolers often have busier schedules and outside activities such as sports, theater, jobs, and volunteer work, not to mention all the driving around that we do for our homeschool kids. In our family, we had to get creative and more flexible with our independent reading schedule as the kids got older. Sometimes it meant reading in the car or out in the park, waiting for a sibling's activity to finish, or shifting our reading time to later in the evening. The key is really to being flexible enough to adjust the schedule of that independent reading habit, even if the when and the where changes. You just need to adjust the schedules as your children grow. And that's really a natural part of homeschooling, isn't it? Every year we're changing something up because the children are getting older, the schedules are changing, So it's all about finding what works for your family's unique needs and schedules. You will find that setting a specific time for independent reading can really take the pressure off of your children, especially for a reluctant reader. I find that reading all at the same time of the day for a particular amount of time really helps, where I have my book, the kids have theirs in a cozy literature loving atmosphere. It really encouraged that habit of reading. When it comes to book choices, start with easier things such as nature readers. Fables and fairy tales are also a really good option. And the Thornton Burgess books, he's got the animal stories, and he also has some other nature books that I will just put up here for you to take a look at. And the links for all of these books will be in the description below. But these nature books are really good for them to start with, and they're really good for naturalists and animal lovers, such as me and my children in our household. Your children will read all about animals and their habitats and learn natural science when they read these fun stories. Now, just because your child is reading independently, it doesn't mean that you need to stop reading aloud to them. We still do family read alouds to this day, and it's a really special time to bond and expose our kids to books that might be above their independent reading level. Sometimes when my high school age daughter is reading a really good book, for example, she'll ask if she can read the book aloud to me. So like maybe when I'm doing the dishes, or instead of my TV time, she may ask, hey, I'm reading this really good book. Do you want to hear some of it? And so how can I say no to that, right? As your child's skills improve, you can start introducing more challenging subjects during their independent reading time. There are fantastic history storybooks for young readers out there, science books too, and the key is really to follow your child's interests. One thing that worked well for us was using independent reading time to get to those diverse living books that we didn't get a chance to get to during the school year. It's really a great way to go deeper into those topics that we were studying, but in a more relaxed setting. Remember, when your children are developing their independent reading skills and they are successfully reading on their own, you are still their guide, and that is crucial that you stay in that role. And introducing different genres and reading levels to your children about topics that you know and heard that they are interested in. Be available to answer their questions. And yes, sometimes you may have to tell them that a particular book may not be the best choice right now. It's really good to pre-read your children's stories, books if you can, but it's really not practical to read all of them ahead of time. I wasn't able to do that for every single book. I just want to let you know that just yesterday, my college age daughter, who's home on college break, she began reading this over 300-page book just last night. Her sister gave it to her last Christmas as a gift. And anyway, she told me a little bit about the story, which was really a narration that she didn't even realize. But I was excited to listen and to hear more about the story. The next day, I was disappointed to find out that this girl finished the whole book. Yeah. So it's moments like these that show how a love of reading can truly last a lifetime. Well, independent reading is a journey. It's not a destination, okay? It's something that we're constantly teaching our children. And some days will be better than others, and that's okay, all right? The goal is to foster a love of learning and a love of reading that will last a lifetime. Sometimes you got to be patient about the way you go about this. Well, remember, start small, be consistent, and most importantly, make it enjoyable. You'll find links to all the books that I mentioned in this video in the description below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to BookSchooler for more homeschooling tips and tricks. Drop a comment below with your favorite independent reading strategies. I'd love to hear from you. I'll see you in the next video right here.